to describe to someone who didn't know agriculture, didn't know our industry, and they bumped into you at a cocktail reception. So tell me what Landoll Corporation does. How would you answer that question?
We're proud to be a very diversified manufacturing company. So we have a total of 4 product lines plus our major parts distribution center. So that breaks us up.
And the categories that you serve in ag, could you go over those for us?
Well, tillage, that's where, born and raised on a farm, that's my background. You got to work with something and enjoy. Then following the tillage, we tied into the, in the 69 era, but in the 60s, the farm equipment dealer had no way of hauling the modern farm equipment. And that's when the 4020s and John Deere 400s and 450s and 560s came out. And so those people, having worked for an international dealer right out of high school, I come nearly having a wreck one day, and that's when I decided that there's got to be a better way to haul farm equipment than what they're currently doing. So that's how I started building a farm equipment trailer.
From a very young age, you were kind of destined to be doing what you're doing. You had some stories about what you played with a kid before you had power out on the farm, right?
I always give my folks a lot of credit, being the oldest boy of 8 children. But they graduated me from Tinker Toys to an erector set at the age of 7. And, honestly, never stopped building since that time, I guess. Born and raised on the homesteaded family farm. And then Dad had 3 brothers and sisters, and the 4 families, we had 22 first cousins lived on a land within a mile of each other.
Oh, wow.
So we grew up a big family, but being the old homesteaded farm, that's where Grandpa had a nice shop, and so the other brothers and sisters would come over there, and their husbands would come over there to get maintenance and repairs done. So that's how we, been doing maintenance and repairs since I was a little kid,
right.
Alongside of Grandpa or Dad.
And you started commercially helping other farmers when you were in high school, correct?
Yes, yeah. We, same. Didn't have no money, much. We didn't know. We didn't think of it as being poor, but we went to Grandpa's farm and sawed down some trees and run them through a sawmill and build a shop when I was a sophomore in high school to start welding for the neighbors, and of course that just kept moving forward from there.
Were you taught to weld on the farm or in school?
I learned to weld, started welding as I had that desire, but till I was a freshman in vocational ag, that's where I got my start.
Right.
And we had a teacher that wasn't overly enthused about shop. He was unfortunately, a World War II veteran, but he recognized some of my abilities and pretty much turned me loose. And then my senior year, I actually taught hands-on welding through a study hall, from 11 to 12. So I've been teaching people to weld pretty much a lifetime.
Yeah. So 63 was when you actually started the company, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's when we bought the welding shop.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we back up a few years, to high school age, you had, I remember you saying that you were planning on going into the military outside of high school, correct?
Correct, yeah. Early spring, I enlisted into the Air Force. And those days, of course, everyone had a military service to fulfill. And I wanted to get that out of the way. Plus, we didn't have trade schools. They were very elite those days. I'm not saying, but so that was a means of fighting, getting into a trade and into the production business. And so that's, and the good and the bad. I graduated from high school on Tuesday and went to the Air Force on Sunday and failed my physical on Monday. So Tuesday I was back home, ready to continue my life.
And from there you went to a dealership, is that correct?
International Harvester dealership. And they were family friends as well in my hometown of Hanover. and they called it Hanover Implement and Manufacturing, Hanover Manufacturing. But the one of the three brothers, and they did a lot of shop work, and they got started building some playground equipment, and then picnic tables, and then we built truck hoist and trailer hoist both back when the ear corn days were a big thing.
So how many years were you at the dealership before you went out on your own?
Well, about 2.5 years. And the day that President Kennedy was assassinated, November 22nd, 1963, well, I was sitting in the car with a senior welder at Bruno's, and he was 30 years older than I, and was a World War II vet as well. And we had he seen the opportunity to buy this welding shop, but he was looking for a partner. And having worked with him for 2.5 years, why he chose me to go in partnership with him. And I look back at that. I mean, for years now, I talk about, or I'm talking to different groups, is generate, recognize, and take advantage of your opportunities. And being the youngest one in the shop, and yet I was chosen as his partner. I had no money, of any amount, so he said, "Well, that's no problem. I'll pay cash for my half, and you can borrow against my half." And then we got ready to borrow the money. I wasn't 21 yet, so I had to borrow my half under his name and make his payment. So it was an opportunity that he gave me, and obviously, it all worked out well, and probably finished that 2.5 years later. 50 years ago, I just celebrated 50 years he came to me one afternoon. He said, "I got an opportunity to go back to the railroad, and on Monday, and I'm going, and so I'm going to leave you with the shop and sell you my half." And since I had no ability yet to borrow enough money, because we'd grown the business some, so he loaned me the money to buy his second half out. So that's how I got on my own, and been on my own ever since.
Yeah, it's a great story. So at that time, was that welding shop was a job shop type operation, or were you specializing in certain products?
Well, we were welding, radiator, and blacksmith shop. Okay. And that's what I like to think of as my early diversification, as well as the implement company we worked with previously. And of course, all the farmers in rural Kansas are pretty diversified, especially eastern Kansas. So diversification is a big, big word in my vocabulary, and it's worked for us many, many times. So, and then as a camper factory had moved into town, and I got started building frames for campers. Was kind of the first contract job I had, and my partner was still with me at that time. Okay. But having, and that's something we're going through, right now, a major drought in Kansas and that, but having been through the dirty 30s, and he was with his mother and dad when the sheriff took him off the farm. So I've heard about the dirty 30s and that, as a kid, and we had the dirty 30s, we've had the 80s, and, we've had some challenging times since. So that's a lot to be learned from that.
What were the first 5 years like for the business, your early days?
My first product with my own name on it was a pickup slide-in stock rack, and that was a good product. We had about inch square tube and some 1.25 inch angle iron, and that was my bill of material with a few bolts. So that gave me a real opportunity to get my name out and to fill in the job shop business has always been that way, and probably always will be. You have peaks and valleys almost daily or weekly or whatever. So that was filling in my peaks and valleys, and so I got started with that. That was something you could sell locally, sold lots of them. That was my first experience. We weren't the first people in the business, but we were the first people with a high quality product. And that's when the style side pickups and stuff were first coming out. And people wanted something that looked nice in their new pickup, and so we got started with quality, which we've never got away from.
How did you go to market with that product?
Pretty much word of mouth. Car dealers the rural farm. Of course, those days every little community had a Chevy and a Ford dealer, and most likely a Dodge, and even an International Harvester pickups those days. So that's who we went to sell our product in a relatively small area. And then I got fortunate. The feed companies came along with a liquid supplement, and liquid supplement was a nitrate-based molasses. And in order to sell their product, they had to have a container to put it in with lick wheels on it. Those days, everybody had, livestock on the farm, so they'd put that on the farm, fill that liquid feeder up, and that cow would lick that wheel, and kind of like a human taking salt and pepper, they get their fill of it. If they drank it, they would kill them. So you had to have a quality product they couldn't get into. So I got started with a local elevator, and they were buying my products, as a container to put their product in. And then we got with Neutrina Feeds, and then we got on the national circuit in Omaha. They had their national convention in Omaha, and we ended up taking that product as far as into Canada. So we built thousands of those, but that was a real means of cash income. No terms, no sales commissions. They were just taking care of what a quality product to put their product in to make it look good, their product look good. So those were good times.
Yeah. That was all in that 5-year.
Yeah,
first 5-year period.
Yeah, a little longer. Yeah. That's when we got started shipping. But like everything, it had a little bit of seasonality to it. And then a company, with the bigger tractors, and what I'm referring to in the 60s is bigger tractors, 4020s and 560s. Why the old diamond toolbars, this solid piece of steel, was still a very popular product, and we're just 30 miles down the road from Dempster. And they were very sound manufacturing company that built a lot of product for Ford and Massey Ferguson and their, in the old 2-row days, especially some 4-row. But people started tearing up their product, and they had no desire to do better. And their sales manager decided he had the dual toolbar concept, and he wanted to get in and start building a dual toolbar. And I was fortunate enough to. And he didn't have no money either, so together we got started building toolbars, and he would finish and sell them, market them, and then that's where in '68 that's where the chisel plow come from, is an anhydrous ammonia bar that we beefed up and spread out and things of that nature.
Was that sold locally initially?
Oh, it was in a 3-4 state area.
Yeah. Okay.
It was all under his name. I was just a fabricator of the toolbars. I didn't even do any painting at the time as far as the anhydrous bars. And we got into the tillage. Why, of course, we did painting in that then. Okay. I made my first farm show in 1968, the Missouri State Fair.
As the company founder and the design engineering mind behind the company, were you also tasked with the sales end in those early days?
Yes, I was the sales end and purchasing and till 1970. The first 11 years I was everything. I was the buyer, the plant manager, the engineer, the sales, but working with distributors, that was a little easier than dealer to dealer, because you made the major shows and did your major learning curve or training was done at the major shows. We made those days, everybody had a great state fair pretty much, and then we had the Farm Progress, and then we had M&W had a farm show then, and Elmo Miners turned out to be a great friend, but the first 2 implement trailers I sold at the M&W farm show. Elmo bought personally.
Oh yeah.
He bought every year. He would sell all the products that he bought off his farm show and use them for a year for his farmer's land, and then buy new. So he was a great help in getting the trailer side done, and what made that so popular is that's when everybody, if you sold a tractor, you sold a moldboard plow, And if you sold a moldboard plow and a tractor to go out and demonstrate, nobody had any means of hauling it. With our traveling axle, low angle tilt, with our wheels going completely to the rear to get the payload spread out, it was a perfect answer. So that played a big part in getting the trailer successful.
What would you say are your core values in running the business that you learned from maybe some earlier times or from your family, wherever that was from?
One that's very, very important that I stress always with groups and employees is you build a foundation. A foundation is so important to have a solid foundation, whether it's under a house or under a shop or wherever, under the family, under the banker, under the employees, because we're always going to have ups and downs. But with a strong foundation, it's always managed to carry us through. So a foundation, and then probably a second thing that I preach a lot is one man's problems, another's opportunity. So whenever someone has a problem, usually there's an opportunity to solve that problem. And if that fits your line of work, why that's a great place to get started on, entrepreneurship. I mean, whoever can be the greatest entrepreneur in the world, but you still got to solve somebody's problem and be a successful entrepreneur.